Hey everyone, ready to dive into some fascinating economic stuff.
Always.
Today we're looking at Nepal.
Okay.
Their economy's kind of hitting a rough patch, and there's
Yeah.
this insightful commentary we're going to break down.
Okay.
It's by Shankar Mansingh,
All right.
and it's all based on a recent report
Great.
from Nepal's High-Level Economic Reforms Advisory Commission. It's basically their plan to get things back on track.
Sounds ambitious.
Get this, they're dealing with a slowdown.
Wow.
The rupee's like all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make federalism actually work
All at the same time.
all at the same time.
It's a pivotal moment for Nepal for sure.
Yeah.
This report's got a ton of suggestions. But Singh's analysis is what's interesting.
Yeah.
He digs into,
Into what?
whether they're realistic or just like wishful thinking.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So the report starts with this stat.
Okay.
3.4% economic growth in the first quarter of their fiscal year, which is 208,182 in their calendar.
Right.
Can you break down what that means for like people on the ground?
Yeah. So imagine
Yeah.
fewer jobs businesses struggling,
Yeah.
people feeling the pinch
Oh.
when it comes to expenses and stuff.
Yeah.
A 3.4% growth rate,
Mm-hmm.
especially for a developing nation.
Right.
It means a lot of families are struggling,
Yeah.
and the government can't provide as many services.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
The report stresses urgent action.
it does.
But a lot of these suggestions,
Mm.
they seem kind of familiar.
Like what?
Like paying debts, supporting borrowers.
Yeah.
Haven't we heard this before?
There are definitely echoes of the past,
Okay.
but the context is different now.
How so?
Well, the global economy is unstable.
Yeah, true.
Nepal's federal system's still new,
Yeah,
and we're still dealing with the pandemic's effects.
right.
The urgency comes from, these problems are piling up.
Not just repeating.
Yeah.
Things get interesting when the report talks about land
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and compensation for projects.
Interesting.
Anyone who follows Nepal knows
Wow.
land disputes can get pretty intense.
Intense how?
Well, in Nepal,
Mm.
land ownership is tied to identity
Okay.
and livelihood.
I see.
So big projects, they
Yeah.
often spark resistance
Yeah.
because people don't want to give up their land.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And that directly impacts the economy, right?
Absolutely.
Uh
Delays mean investments stall,
huh.
potential jobs disappear.
Wow.
The cost of these projects skyrockets.
So it's like
Oh,
a bottleneck.
exactly.
Okay, there's this line that really got me.
The line.
No new contracts until old ones are paid.
Ooh.
That's a strong statement. It is? Is that even realistic?
It's addressing the government's debts.
Okay.
They're trying to regain control of their finances,
I see.
show they're serious about fiscal responsibility.
Mm.
Whether it's feasible, though,
Yeah.
depends on how they enforce it
Okay.
and how they prioritize existing projects.
So it could backfire.
It could, if not done carefully.
So debt is one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's this thing about health insurance.
What about it?
They're talking about raising premiums.
Oh, wow.
The report links it to Social Security
Okay.
and mentions life expectancy being 73 years.
Interesting. How's that all connected?
Yeah, I don't get it either.
So they're trying to balance the books.
Okay.
Social Security.
Okay.
People are living longer,
Mm-hmm.
meaning more people need benefits for longer.
Okay.
At the same time, healthcare costs are up.
So they need more money.
Yeah.
But that's tough for people already struggling.
It is a tough situation.
What about the idea to reschedule loans
For who?
for businesses hit by COVID?
Is that actually helpful?
I was wondering the same thing.
It's a double-edged sword, really.
How so?
It gives businesses some breathing room.
Okay.
But if the economy doesn't improve, they might still not be able to repay.
So it's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's a short-term fix.
Singh goes deeper than just the report, though.
He does.
Yeah, he looks at the root causes
Yeah.
of the economic slowdown.
Interesting. What does he say?
He points to unstable politics.
Ah, yeah, that's a classic.
Governments change frequently.
Yeah.
It makes long-term policies impossible.
Right.
And that scares off
I
investors.
sense they need predictability.
So it's like,
Like what?
you can't build a house on shifting sand,
Exactly.
no foundation, no growth.
Makes sense.
He also mentions weak infrastructure.
Like what?
Things like electricity and transportation
Okay.
make it harder for businesses
To do what?
to operate efficiently.
Mm.
And then there's corruption.
Ugh. Yeah.
How does that impact everything?
Think of it like a hidden tax.
A hidden tax.
Yeah. It diverts resources from productive activities.
I see.
Makes investors nervous.
Why?
Because the system seems rigged. It creates an uneven playing field.
Excellent.
Success depends on who you know.
Not what you know.
Right.
So it hurts trust in the whole system.
Exactly.
And then there's federalism.
Right. That's a whole other layer.
It's meant to empower local governments.
Yeah.
But it also brings new challenges.
For sure.
What makes this transition so important for the economy?
Well, the idea is that local governments, they can address their own needs better.
Okay.
And allocate resources efficiently.
Makes sense.
But to do that, they need clear responsibilities.
Okay.
Coordination with the national government and the ability to manage their own finances.
Sounds like a balancing act.
It is, for sure.
Okay, so we've got the problems.
Yep.
What about solutions?
The report has some suggestions.
Like what?
Attracting investment.
Okay.
Fostering innovation. Reforming education.
But how do you actually do that?
That's where we dig deeper.
Let's do it.
Let's start with attracting investment.
Okay, how do they do that?
Tax incentives are one way.
Like what?
Lower tax rates or breaks.
To make them more competitive.
Exactly.
But there's got to be more than that, right?
Yeah, the most important thing is stability.
Ah, stability.
Investors need to feel confident that their money's safe.
Okay.
And they won't face unnecessary obstacles.
So it's about building trust, not just offering deals.
Think of it like building a house.
Okay.
Tax incentives are like the paint color.
Okay.
It might look nice.
Yeah.
But if the foundation's shaky.
The whole thing falls apart.
Precisely.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
What about fostering innovation?
That's more about creating an ecosystem that supports new ideas and taking risks.
So how do they do that?
Well, one way is funding research, universities and institutions.
To do what?
Attract talent, develop new technology.
Are there any examples of that happening in Nepal already?
Yeah, their tech startup scene is booming.
Really?
Especially things like e-commerce.
Oh, wow.
Fintech digital services.
So they're on the right track.
It's still early, but there's potential.
What about education reform?
Education is key. Long-term growth.
Our listeners love learning.
I bet they do.
So how does better education help the economy?
It's about investing in people.
Human capital.
Exactly.
Okay.
A well-educated workforce.
Yeah.
They're more productive. They adapt to new technologies faster.
Makes sense.
They're more likely to start businesses.
Wow. So it's like giving people the tools to build their own futures.
Exactly. It empowers people.
And that helps the whole economy.
It does indeed.
All right. So we've looked at the slowdown, dug into the root causes, and explored some solutions.
A lot to think about.
It's a complex picture.
It is.
But one thing's clear.
What's that?
Nepal is at a turning point.
A pivotal moment.
Stay tuned for part 2, everyone.
Can't wait.
We'll dive into specific reforms and explore their potential impact.
Sounds good. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back.
Ready for more.
Last time we kind of set the stage.
Yeah.
Nepal's economy needs a boost.
For sure.
Now let's get into the specifics.
Okay.
How can they actually jumpstart things?
Well, one sector with potential is tourism.
Oh, yeah. Nepal's a beautiful country.
It is.
Mount Everest, the Himalayas, those amazing temples.
It's on a lot of people's bucket lists.
Right. But tourism took a hit during COVID.
It did.
So how can they make it more sustainable?
Not just a boom and bust cycle.
Exactly.
There's a lot of talk about diversifying.
Diversifying what they offer.
Yeah, like moving beyond just trekking and mountaineering.
Which are still amazing, obviously.
Of course. But adding other options.
Like what?
Ecotourism, cultural tours, wellness retreats.
Oh, yeah, stuff like that.
Appeal to different interests and budgets.
So showcasing all of Nepal.
Exactly.
Not just the mountains.
Yeah.
And tapping into responsible travel.
What's that?
People want their trips to benefit locals.
Oh, okay.
And minimize environmental impact.
Makes sense. Tourism is key.
It is.
But what else does Singh suggest?
He talks about hydropower.
Hydropower.
Yeah, Nepal has tons of rivers.
Right. Perfect for energy.
Exactly. They could meet their own needs.
Okay.
And even export excess energy.
To where?
Like India.
Wow, that's a good idea.
Bringing in much needed revenue.
But those projects can be controversial, right?
They can be.
Environmental concerns,
yeah.
Displacement of communities.
It's about proceeding carefully.
I see.
Making sure it's sustainable.
Okay.
Thorough environmental assessments. Talk to the locals. Make sure they're compensated fairly.
So it's a delicate balance.
It is, but it can be done right.
Finding that balance between growth
yeah.
and protecting people and the environment.
That's sustainable development.
Speaking of balance, What about agriculture?
It's the backbone of their economy.
Employs a lot of people.
A huge portion.
But it faces challenges.
Like what?
Climate change.
Yeah.
Low productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Access to markets.
So how do you modernize it?
In a way that helps farmers.
Right, not just corporations.
Exactly.
There's a push for sustainable farming.
Like what?
Organic farming, water conservation.
Okay.
Climate-resilient crops.
Working with nature.
Exactly.
Well, not against it.
And giving farmers access to credit.
So they can invest.
Yeah, and get fair prices for their products.
It's about empowering the farmers.
A bottom-up approach.
Okay. But all this is big picture stuff.
True.
What about everyday life for people?
One area is education.
Right. We talked about that.
Investing in people is key.
So what are they proposing?
Improving education at all levels.
Round.
Primary school to vocational training to university.
Wow, the whole spectrum.
Giving people the skills they need.
To compete in a globalized world.
Exactly.
But education alone isn't enough.
No, you need jobs too.
Especially for young people.
Job creation is a top priority.
How do they plan to do that?
Well, a few ways.
Right.
Promoting entrepreneurship.
Encouraging people to start businesses.
Yeah. And attracting foreign investment.
But what?
Labor-intensive industries.
Yeah.
Skills training programs.
That match what employers need.
Precisely.
So it's not just any job.
It's about good jobs.
That provide a future.
And utilize Nepal's unique strengths.
Like what?
Their traditional crafts and textiles.
Beautiful stuff.
Imagine connecting them to global markets.
Through e-commerce.
Exactly. A boost for rural communities.
Thinking outside the box.
Finding what works for Nepal.
Not just copying other countries.
It's about improving people's lives.
Not just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Creating opportunities for everyone.
Making sure growth is inclusive.
That's the goal.
So we have all these great ideas.
Yeah.
But how do you actually implement them?
That's the question.
What are the challenges?
Stay tuned for part 3.
We'll tackle those tough questions.
We'll be right back.
All right, we're back.
Back for the final round.
We've talked about Nepal's economic stuff and brainstormed some fixes.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out for a sec.
Okay.
What about international partners?
Ah, good point.
Are they just watching?
No, not at all.
Or can they actually help?
They'd be really important.
Okay, so they're not just giving money.
It's more than that.
They bring something to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they have resources.
Like what?
Financial resources.
Okay.
Expertise and connections.
Connections too?
Global markets.
Ah, okay. So give me an example.
Organizations like the World Bank.
Okay.
The Asian Development Bank.
I've heard of those.
They provide loans and grants.
Yeah.
Big projects.
Oh,
Roads, hydropower plants, irrigation.
That's a lot.
It stimulates the economy.
Yeah.
Improves people's lives.
How so?
Access to electricity.
Okay.
Clean water. Better transportation.
So it's long-term development.
Not just quick fixes.
And it's not just infrastructure.
Right. They also support other programs.
Like what?
Education, healthcare, agriculture.
Building human capital.
And strengthening the safety net.
So they're tackling a lot.
It's a multi-pronged approach.
There's also a focus on the private sector, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that work?
Organizations like the International Finance Corporation,
Okay.
they work to attract investment, foreign investors.
Okay.
They foster entrepreneurship.
So it's not just government aid.
It's about a strong private sector, too.
Give me an example.
Some partners work with local businesses.
On what?
Sustainable tourism.
That's cool.
It benefits communities.
And protects the environment.
It's a win-win.
But there are always challenges, right?
With anything, yeah.
What are some potential problems?
Transparency and accountability.
Important stuff.
There's a risk of corruption.
Always.
Aid might not reach the right people.
So you got to make sure it's used effectively.
Exactly.
Health.
Making sure programs align with Nepal's goals.
Not just the partner's goals.
Right. It's about collaboration.
Working together.
Not dictating terms.
So it's about complementing Nepal's efforts.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot.
Well, yeah.
Challenge solutions partners. What's the long-term outlook?
Should we be optimistic?
I'm curious.
I'd say cautiously optimistic.
Oh.
Nepal's been through a lot.
The earthquake, the pandemic.
But they're resilient.
I see.
They want change.
They're ready for something new.
Yeah, they want a better future.
But how do they make that happen?
It comes down to leadership.
What kind of leadership?
Visionary and pragmatic leaders.
Who put the people first?
Exactly.
Leaders who can inspire.
Navigate all the complexities.
And chart a new course.
It's not just the top, though.
What do you mean?
Leadership at all levels is important.
business communities, everyday life.
It takes everyone working together.
Collective action.
Nepal has so much potential.
They do.
A rich culture, young people, incredible nature.
It's an amazing place.
If they use these assets wisely, overcome hurdles, implement reforms, they can be a model for development.
That's a great vision.
It shows that there's always hope.
Even with all the challenges.
It's a call to action for us, too.
What do you mean?
Stay informed, engage, support, positive change.
Because we're all connected.
Our choices matter.
That's a powerful message.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We encourage you to keep learning.
Keep exploring.
And keep the conversation going.